Hey people, what's going on? Some of you may know that I did a video where I announced that I won't be returning as Spider-Man, so there will be no 10th fan film, with it being the case. So I thought I may as well share my ideas for my Spider-Man fan film 10 to 15 and Venom Spin-off fan film so far I've written. My version of Spidey last appeared in 9, which is obviously my last fan film, where he deals with the symbiote suit. Spoiler alert, he takes the suit off and goes down to Eddie Brock, which is where he becomes Venom. So Spidey won the battle and got a happy ending. Before I discuss the sequels, I'm going to mention Spider-Man FanFilm 4, the one that features Doc Ock. I have ideas of doing a remastered version, where the film will be the same but there will be changes. The CGI Doc Ock with Ephraim Zimbalist Jr.'s voice will be replaced with an actor. The costume will be similar to what Alfred Molina wore as Doc Ock. There would be extended scenes which I originally planned for the film. The idea taking inspiration from Zack Snyder's Justice League, such as the beginning with Dr. Otto Octavius' experiment with the tritium in his lab after he says this is a gift to our world, unlimited energy. The scene cuts to Peter finishing school for the day and walking down the street. The second extended scene we would have seen is Otto puts on 4 of the mechanical arms, taking the influence from Spider-Man 2, where he puts his shades on, put the tritium into the machine and uses mechanical arms to prevent lasers as no human hand can touch. The experiment goes wrong with the lightning, zapping lasers everywhere. Octavius gets electrocuted and passed out, with the whole room being destroyed. The scene cuts to a blackout, then to a montage of emergency service arrives, then cut to a scene where Otto is in the hospital, resting. My mum would have played one of the nurses. She'll just be wearing like what the A&E nurses would wear, like the face masks, hat and those overalls. Octavius woke up and uses mechanical arms to brutally kill the nurses and doctors, making the scene really scary like Spider-Man 2. He'll break out the hospital, and this is where he becomes Dr. Octopus. The next additional scene is where Doc Ock goes into the bank telling everyone to keep quiet so there's no harm coming to them. As he's about to open the safe, Spider-Man arrives to stop him, as same as the original version. There will be a battle. Spider-Man gets thrown out the window and onto the roof injured, and Doc Ock climbs into a wall getting away from the police. Next additional scene is where Doc Ock got himself a new lab in the hideout. He has a new tritium and plans to recreate the machine. Another extended scene is after, where Peter walks out of the Daily Bugle building and met Doc Ock, but this extended version will have Ock recognizing Peter, who was Octavius' student at Science Club, and demanding him to find Spider-Man. The battle on the train will add new lines, and one of them would have been, "This makes a perfect roller coaster without any stops until the end of the line." And the other line, as soon as he threw Spider-Man into the moving train, "I believe you have a train to catch." The battle scenes will add more scenes. Next additional scene is where Doc Ock powers up his fusion. The next additional scene is Spider-Man searches for Doc Ock in his hideout, and he almost got hit by a scrap. Doc Ock will have new lines and being surprised that Spider-Man survived from being hit by a train. The final battle will be the same as the original. The last additional scene is Doc Ock in jail with the mechanical arms glued up to the wall like the 1990s animated series, and says that he will get out of the prison and nothing will stand in his way. The film will still end with Spider-Man has a race with Johnny Storm, aka the Human Torch from the Fantastic Four. So that would be the remastered Spider-Man FanFilm 4. So the first sequel I'm going to break down is Spider-Man FanFilm 10. The story will set 6 months after battling Venom. I have created logos for the unmade FanFilm sequels, like a concept art. And I think the logo may gave it away with the yellow lightning effects. Electro will be the villain. It would have been the classic version of Electro, resemble the character from Spider-Man 2 Enter Electro video game commercial. The story will be based on the Amazing Spider-Man 9 comic book. The film will begin at New York, where Spidey will stop the thugs, saving Max Dillon's life from being mugged. Next day, the weather will be raining with thunder and lightning. Aunt May is poorly in bed, so Peter has to keep doing his job to earn money so he can pay for her treatment. Max Dillon would work as an electrical engineer as he fixes the broken cable The lightning strikes, Max gets electrocuted, which gives him power of electricity. The idea of Electro's suit is supposed to be safety suit for the workers, so Max puts it on for safety reasons. As he meets Spider-Man to the street, Electro asks for help as he had an accident. Spider-Man suggests taking him to the X-Mansion to talk to Professor Charles Xavier, seeing what he can do. But what caused him being a villain is police arrive. Electro thinks Spider-Man tries to turn him in, so they have a big battle, but Spider-Man couldn't stop him because he was too powerful. Electro breaks into Oscorp. He goes onto a computer and researches the power plant gives him an idea to control every electricity in New York City, to become a god, while Peter has an argument with Gwen and felt uneasy not watching over her and Aunt May due to Venom incident where he knew his identity. He finds rubber gloves, so he uses it to stop Electro. They have a big battle at the power plant. Electro gets surrounded by electricity force field like a boss battle in Enter Electro video game. Spidey uses water from a pipe to stop him because water and electricity is a very bad mix. Electro gets taken away by the police. Peter has the photos to give to J. Jonah Jameson. After Gwen breaks up with Peter for being controlling, when all he's trying to do is keep her safe, he asks Betty Brant out for a date, and Peter manages to pay for Aunt May's treatment. In the end, the Daily Bugle spreads rumour about Spider-Man and Electro teaming up. Peter suspects that him and Gwen weren't meant to be, and Aunt May feels better. The film will end with Spider-Man on the rooftop with orange sunset like the Raimi films, with the speech that says, "Right words to say, each love the first pangs of love, of that emotion we call love." The next project is Spider-Man FanFilm 11. There would be 2 villains in the film. Kraven the Hunter. The idea of costume will be similar to the fan art of Russell Crowe that I saw on YouTube when I was about 9 and thought that looks pretty cool. We'll learn that Sergei Kravenov, aka Kraven, was once a big game hunter in Africa. His lover, Dr. Mariah Crawford, aka Calypso, will probably get mentioned. The other villain would feature in this one is Chameleon. My idea for his costume, he would wear a white mask similar to the Amazing Spider-Man 2 video game. He'll be wearing a blue suit like in the comics. Chameleon would have the collection of human masks, including Spider-Man's suit, and he's also Kraven's half-brother. It would be based on the Amazing Spider-Man 15 comic book. The film will begin with 3 criminals robbing houses or stores or banks. So Peter gets changed into Spider-Man. He captures 2 thugs. One of them is missing. There was no one else there apart from the old man, who turns out to be Chameleon. As Chameleon manages to get home, he was relieved how close he was to be captured. So he phones his half-brother, Kraven, who refers to him as the Mighty Hunter. The next morning, as Peter goes into the Daily Bugle, the character Ned Leeds would have been featured. This is where we learn about Kraven's backstory as a game hunter. There would be his flashback scenes, including fighting with a lion. At night, while Chameleon disguised himself as Spider-Man, robbing the banks, Peter sits around in his bedroom. Mary Jane Watson will get mentioned again, as Aunt May is constantly trying to get Peter to meet her, but he refuses due to being told that she has wonderful personality and thinking she might not be good looking, that he doesn't do blind dates. When Peter finds out on social media about the robbery, he thought that Mysterio has escaped from the cell to try and frame him again, but he finds Quentin Beck is still in jail, so he investigates on who's trying to frame him this time. After webbing his camera on the wall and Spider Sense tingled, Chameleon, disguised as Spider-Man, appeared, pointing a gun at Spider-Man, making the scene look kinda scary, and they both have a battle, taking inspiration from Night of the Clones from the 1970s Spider-Man TV show, starring Nicholas Hammond. I'm not gonna lie, but I would have loved to do that scene, like me as Spider-Man fighting me as Spider-Man. Kraven watches over them to observe. As the police came in, Captain George Stacy will appear. He sees Chameleon escape and realizes that the real Spider-Man is innocent. Kraven sets afire New York Zoo to get Spider-Man's attention. As Peter shows the photos of himself in Spidey outfit fighting Chameleon, Jameson sends him down to the zoo. While the police are looking for Chameleon, Spider-Man goes to the zoo. He completes Kraven's test like a level of the Spider-Man 2002 movie game, including dodging spikes and bullets from shotgun that Kraven's firing. They both have a battle. Craven cuts Spidey's arm, a knife which made him felt sick, so he swings away as he feels weak and dizzy because Craven put a knife into a potion. After he and Chameleon celebrate and Aunt May seeing Peter feeling ill lying on his bed, the next day Betty breaks up with Peter because she's 4 years older than him. Peter would have been 16 or 17 and Betty would have been 20 or 21. Craven breaks into the Bugle, telling Jameson that he killed Spider-Man to scare him. Peter gets a text from Liz Allen, so they started talking to each other, while again he refuses to meet MJ. However, he agrees to meet her just this once, if it makes Aunt May happy, but he would be going out with Liz. So Peter walks out of the house and says, "Ugh, the wonderful personality, I wouldn't have hit the jackpot." So Peter and Liz goes out on a date, but it gets ruined by Craven breaking in and Peter running off, leaving Liz behind. So after a brief fight between Spidey and Craven got captured, something wasn't right because it was too easy, but it turns out it was Chameleon disguised as Craven, so he gets arrested and said, "I have nothing to do with it was Craven." Next morning of Midtown High School, Liz dumps Peter for leaving her and Spider-Man had to come and save her, which made Peter sulk around in the classroom that he's bad with girls. He blames it all on his suit for attracting trouble. In the Central Park at night, Spider-Man has a big battle with Craven. In order to stop him, Spidey will hide in the tree, while Craven will look for him. He gets webbed up and the police arrive to take him away, and it will set up the Sinister Six. Film 11 will end with Peter sewing up his costume. The doorbell rings. Aunt May got Peter to answer the door, and he sees an attractive girl with red hair standing at the doorstep. This is where Mary Jane, played by my girlfriend, Joanne Bowman, will make her first appearance. Her line will be same as the comics, which is, "Face it, Tiger, you just hit the jackpot." And they'll make it look as though they'll become more than just friends. My girlfriend is interested in playing Mary Jane. She would have had her hair sprayed red, and I think at some point she'll cosplay Lego MJ, including a black top with a heart-shaped Spider-Man's head, showing she has a crush on him. To those who don't know, she has a YouTube channel called Joanne's Fitness Club, where she does her fitness workout dance parties for everyone to keep fit. Worth checking out. The link is in the description below. So the ending scene will lead to the 12th fan film, subtitled as Rise of the Sinister Six. Like the 5th fan film is subtitled as Spider-Man vs. Wolverine, and 6th is Enter the Punisher. My girlfriend as Mary Jane will have a bigger part. Her relationship with myself as Peter Parker would have a focus. There would be 6 returning villains from the previous fan films. Doc Ock would return with the same actor from the remastered version of the 4th fan film. He'll be the leader of the Sinister Six team. Vulture, Mysterio, Sandman, Electro and Craven would have returned, played by the same actors. Lee Armstrong would have returned as the Sandman, as well as Dwight Schultz as Vulture and James Arnold Taylor as Mysterio. The story will mostly be based on the Amazing Spider-Man Annual 1 comic. The film would open with Peter and Mary Jane sitting in a restaurant at night getting to know each other. As they leave, they give each other's phone number, adding each other on Facebook and other social media. So then it'll cut to Peter changing into Spider-Man and swings around and webbing 2 thieves onto a lamppost like Spider-Man 2. Meanwhile, Doc Ock figures out a way to escape by pulling his arms off the wall as hard as he can. He breaks out the cell, killing a couple of police officers. He sets Sandman free and the other 4 villains. Peter, as he's wrong about Blind Date, on the next day finds out that the 6 villains he battled in the past have escaped, suspecting that they wanted revenge. As he swings around as Spider-Man to look for them, he starts to lose his Spidey powers just like in the comic book and the second Raimi film. He has a look at his wrist and there's no webs coming out. The scene cuts to Peter walking down his school corridor, then in the classroom, staring at his wrist like something's wrong. Meanwhile, villains sit in the cafe for a meeting. After school finishes for the day, Peter gets a phone call from Mary Jane, arranging a meetup for a cinema and the next day. Peter agrees and goes on a swing as Spider-Man, thinking earlier losing power incident must have been a glitch. At night, as Spidey lands on a roof, taking the influence from the opening cutscene from Spider-Man Friend or Foe video game, where he reunites with the villains. At one point his webs is not shooting again, so he has no choice but to run away. on foot, which confuses the villains. Peter gives the photos to Jameson on the next day and went home to look at his wrist, wondering if his powers were all gone. He'll be an ordinary high school student again. He gets a phone call from Mary Jane again. He realizes he forgot about the cinema, which Mary Jane telling him that with her it's one strike and you're out. And she immediately hangs up with him. Peter got upset over it. As Spider-Man goes swinging around at night, he loses his powers again and fell down to the alleyway. He tries to shoot a web again, but there's nothing again. He climbs on the wall, but he slips off, which hurts him really bad. He goes to say, "What could this be? I'm no longer Spider-Man. Then again, my life has been a disaster ever since I put the suit on. I can't keep a girl. Spider-Man no more." So it cuts to Peter in his clothes carrying his Spider-Man suit in the same alley. He puts his costume in the garbage and walks away. That scene would be based on Spider-Man No More comic book. Then it would cut to the montage where Peter puts his glasses back on and walking down the street, nearly tripping over, Flash Thompson bullying him, and Peter walks away as he sees a police chase. He's an ordinary school kid again. Spider-Man's suit got brought into Jameson's office, and it shows the consequences with the number of % crimes are going up. And the villains attacking the city. There would have also been a scene where Sandman and Electro talks to each other about how they got their powers. Peter goes to his Uncle Ben's grave saying sorry he's no longer Spider-Man, he's just Peter Parker and wanted life of his own. And he also goes home to tell Aunt May the truth on what happened on the night where Uncle Ben has died. And that it was his fault. He didn't stop the thief when he had the chance, which shocked Aunt May. While Peter thinks Aunt May won't forgive him for that night, he looks on social media about the 6 villains attacking the city. Peter wishes he could have done something to stop them. He's surprised when he gets a phone call from Mary Jane again and promised her he won't forget to meet her this time. So in the next day, Peter sits with MJ at the cafe. It reveals that they both are 17 years old. So far I've written about my girlfriend's version of MJ, is that MJ is in different school from Peter. She's been taking drama lessons. She's been wanting to become an actress. Her parents would have been called Philip and Madeline Watson, but MJ is currently living with her aunt Anna Watson after her abusive father left her. There would have been a mention of Morris Bench, aka Hydro Man, who MJ once dated. But because of their relationship ended, and how it ended, that's how she became a bit iffy with dating, which is why she was hanging up on Peter and rather being just friends with Peter for now. So during that scene, MJ's speech will be similar to Aunt May's in Spider-Man 2, with the whole thing with giving up what we want the most. She'll be saying things like, as an actress, when you get people loving you for what you do, there are a matter of time when you get haters, but you should never let the haters bring you down. If you pull yourself back together, you get right back onto the horse. It gives you inspiration, strength, honest, courage, everything. Her speech will convince Peter to return as Spider-Man, but then Doc Ock breaks in all of a sudden. He questions Peter on where Spider-Man is. He threatens MJ, which angered Peter, so he knocks Peter out and kidnaps MJ. Peter takes off his glasses as he's got his powers back. He stole back his suit and swings to the warehouse as Spider-Man. He captures 5 villains and set Mary Jane free, while Doc Ock escaped. The next scene is based on The Amazing Spider-Man 90. The police chases Doc Ock. As he climbs onto a building, Spider-Man goes after him. Then Spidey gets saved by Captain George Stacy. Doc Ock causes rocks to fall on George Stacy, which crushes his body. Doc Ock then escapes. George knew all along that Peter and Spider-Man are the same guys. So Peter takes his mask off as George dies in his arms, and he promised him to look after Gwen and to be good for her. During the funeral, Peter and Gwen got back together. Doc Ock is on the run, but the other 5 villains are in the facility. And of course, the film will end with Spider-Man swinging around New York City. The FanFilm 13 will have Scorpion as the villain. The story will be based on The Amazing Spider-Man 20. So what happens is MacDonald Gargan is stalking Peter Parker. He gets followed back home. Peter notices and hoping that Mac isn't working for the Green Goblin. So while Mac Gargan phones Jameson, Peter gets changed into Spider-Man and swings out the window right behind his back. Mac's goal is to find out how Peter gets good photos of Spider-Man but everyone else didn't, so he can let Jameson know how. Originally, Spider-Man was to follow Mac Gargan, but he gets distracted by the robbery, so he stops them instead, which made him lost Gargan, so he went back home. Peter goes to Daily Bugle on the next day, seeing Mac Gargan having a meeting with Jameson. We'll learn that Mac Gargan has been bullied in the past, and he hates it when anyone calls him names. While Spider-Man swings around, Jameson took Mac to the lab to see Dr. Stillwell. Mac gets into a Scorpion battlesuit. Stillwell gave him the strength of a scorpion. After all, spiders are the natural prey of the scorpions. The idea of the suit would be a green armor type, like an actual battlesuit instead of spandex. He would have a tail pointing above his shoulder and spraying acid. There would also be a scene where Spidey saves Mary Jane from criminals and they'll do the upside down kiss. Spider-Man will then meet Scorpion on a rooftop. After a battle, Scorpion becomes more of a Scorpion with the aggression. Jameson goes back to his office regretting for what he's done. Also, at some point in the film, Spider-Man will mention that he never got to be part of the Avengers. The Scorpion kills Stillwell. He breaks into Daily Bugle, but Spider-Man arrives in time. Scorpion is webbed up and gets arrested. Spider-Man finally goes to tell Jameson that he's a good guy, but Jameson says that won't change a thing. In the end, Peter cleans a cut on his head due to the battle with Scorpion, and at some point Mary Jane is moved to Midtown High School, same school as Peter. Peter goes on a date with Gwen, which is where she'll find out that Peter is Spider-Man. The film will end with Peter looking at his Spidey suit. Also, the surviving symbiote will have a cameo, which leads to a spin-off, Venom FanFilm. My brother Alex Burke would have returned as Eddie Brock, aka Venom. The main villain would be Carnage. I would have done 2 cameos as Spider-Man. So far I've written the film will open with Spider-Man helping SWAT team capturing a psychopath with wild red hair, Cletus Cassidy. And I think at that scene Cletus will cut his arm or something. Either way, he will cut himself to make himself bleed. While Peter takes his mask off and getting changed in the alley, Cletus is taken to the cell right next to Eddie. Cletus will annoy Eddie, and at some point the symbiote crawls into the police station and ended up getting sliced in half. One of them reunites with Eddie and he becomes Venom again. He'll escape the cell and fight the SWAT team. Eddie looks at his old apartment and notices that he's been evicted. There'll be the other half of symbiote still crawling around and ended up bonding with Cletus Cassidy. The symbiote will pick up Cletus's blood, which will turn it from black to red. So he'll look exactly like Venom, but red and more horrifying. The concept art of Carnage in the film is created. So he escapes from the cell and kills a lot of policemen, taking inspiration from Venom Let There Be Carnage. Obviously there will be a Venom and Carnage battle scene, as Venom hates Carnage. They'll be based on comic books. My second cameo as Spidey is where, after Carnage takes a baby from the mother and attempted to throw the baby off the building, but Venom saves the baby. But while Venom talks to the mother, Spidey will have a little fight with Carnage. He tries to rip Spidey apart, but with a surprise, Venom came in and saved Spider-Man's life, and then Venom went to say to Spidey it's his fight, and pushes him away. Spider-Man will get up and wondered if he was having a nightmare or something. Shriek will also be featured. She'll be written as Carnage's love interest. They'll team up. Shriek will be a villain in the final battle scene, where she'll fight with Venom, and of course Venom will fight Carnage again. For the ending of Carnage, Venom manages to take the symbiote of Cletus and put Carnage symbiote onto Eddie, making Venom more powerful. Cletus will be put in jail. As far as I've written, I haven't decided what will happen to Shriek, whether she'll be taken to custody or being killed off. J. Jonah Jameson will be featured, and my girlfriend would probably have a cameo as Mary Jane. The film would aim to be a horror. Next project is Spider-Man FanFilm 14. Green Goblin will return as the main villain. The story will be based on the night Gwen Stacy died, as well as Green Goblin's last stand, meaning that Gwen Stacy and Norman Osborn will be killed off in the story. So it'll begin with Peter recovering from Carnage incident, goes on a date with Gwen. Green Goblin bombs the streets with his pumpkin bombs. Spider-Man investigates, but he couldn't find him. But after Peter sees Jameson at the Daily Bugle, he as Spider-Man investigates the burning building, like the 2002 first Spider-Man movie. Spidey and Goblin reunites and have a fight. There will be a chase scene where Spidey goes after Green Goblin around New York City. Spidey then gets knocked out into the river and lost to Green Goblin again. Harry Osborn might make an appearance. When I was at school thinking about making my own Spider-Man FanFilm series starring myself, I always thought of my good friend from school playing Harry Osborn, which I think he looks great for the part. At night, Spidey searches for Goblin while he's up to no good. The next day, Goblin spies on Spider-Man getting changed into Peter Parker, which is where Goblin finds out that Peter Parker is Spider-Man. As a result, while Peter is spending time with Gwen, he gets an invite from Norman Osborn, and at some point, Mary Jane is dating Harry Osborn, but she breaks up with him because she felt that they weren't meant to be, as she decided that she's in love with Peter more despite that Peter is with Gwen. After a knockout gas, Green Goblin takes Peter with him on the glider, but Peter got himself free and changes into Spider-Man. Goblin attacks Aunt May but left her alive. Aunt May gets sent to the hospital. Gwen Stacy gets kidnapped by Green Goblin. Spider-Man follows them to the bridge. The scene will take inspiration from The Amazing Spider-Man 2, where Spidey and Goblin have a fight. Gwen falls off the bridge. Spidey shoots a web to try and catch her, but it was too late. Her neck was snapped, just as accurate as the comics. Peter tries to wake her up and cries over her. So he goes raging as he fights with Goblin, which I would have loved to do that scene, just to prove my acting in that. He wanted revenge and attempted to kill Goblin, but then he stopped himself as he realised what he was doing and that it's not what Uncle Ben would have wanted, and Peter can guarantee that he would have regretted it for the rest of his life. Peter finds out Norman Osborn is the Green Goblin. Similar to the comics and the first Spider-Man film, the glider flies towards Peter, but he jumped out the way. As a result, Norman gets impaled instead and dies. The scene cuts to Peter with his mask back on, carrying Gwen's body. As the police and ambulance arrive, there would be a montage of Gwen's funeral, Peter grieving around, Mary Jane giving him an emotional support, then to Norman Osborn's funeral and Harry wanted revenge on Spider-Man. The film would have ended with a cliffhanger, with the news saying Spider-Man has murdered Gwen Stacy and Norman Osborn. There would be police chasing after him. Finally, this sets up the FanFilm 15, subtitled The Man Without Fear, which means Daredevil will appear. The main villains would be Wilson Fisk, aka Kingpin, and the Ringmaster. My idea for Kingpin to cast a bald guy with great muscles to show that you really don't want to mess with him, and he'd be wearing a white suit similar to Michael Clarke Duncan in the 2003 Daredevil movie starring Ben Affleck. So the film will begin with picking up what happened at the end of the previous film. There's controversy news and Peter gets chased. As he hides at home, at some point Peter and Mary Jane finally got together. Gwen would have wanted Peter to be happy. Daredevil's entry would be him fighting criminals after Matt Murdock walking past. Peter questions Jameson about the reports of Spider-Man. Kingpin's first scene would be him staring out the window because I think it's a great entrance, faithful to the character and making him a terrifying crime lord. The police would think Peter Parker is Spider-Man's accomplice, so he gets taken in. Matt Murdock came to help, so Peter is free to go, and he goes to take pictures in courthouse for the Daily Bugle assignment and discovers Kingpin is there. Peter is about to get attacked by thugs, but he's rescued by Daredevil. He gets taken to Matt Murdock's apartment. Matt came in and explains his origin story, such as childhood chemical accident, making him blinded, giving him abilities, and Stick taught him how to fight. Matt will also mention his dad, Jack Murdock, who's a boxer, and at some point gets murdered by Kingpin. So after that scene, Peter gives photos to Jameson. Robbie advised Peter to be careful as Wilson Fisk is a dangerous man. As Spider-Man meets Kingpin, he sends his men to get after him. There will also be a fight between Spider-Man and Daredevil. What Daredevil thinks is that Spidey tries to frame Peter Parker. So pretty much Peter is framing himself. When Spider-Man encounters with Kingpin, there would be an intense moment where he tries to snap Spider-Man's spine with his strength, but Daredevil would be there to rescue him. Daredevil will also have a fight with Kingpin to avenge his father, while Spidey fights with Kingpin's goons. After Kingpin escapes, Spidey and Daredevil find the Ringmaster's note. They attend to his show, where he hypnotizes people. Spidey gets hypnotized and fights with Daredevil. But after everyone is unhypnotized, they evacuate it. Ringmaster gets captured and gets taken to custody. Spider-Man says goodbye to Daredevil. It would explain that Daredevil never looks through Spider-Man's identity with his sense because he respects his rights of privacy. Also, Peter reveals to MJ that he's Spider-Man. However, she would have already known because she recognizes the kiss. I think the film will end with a nice romance scene between Peter and MJ. So, those are all the ideas I've got. I'm not gonna lie, but I am really sad that I don't get to make it happen on screen. I would really love to do it. I didn't want to keep ideas to myself forever. I wanted to let it all out. Thanks for watching, and sorry again that it's been disappointing for you as it has been for me. Take care.